that's what obsession is. It's a world in your head that never turns off.
This is Audience of One, and I'm your host, Spencer Keir. This podcast is a venue and excuse for me to explore my curiosity through conversations with leading thinkers and builders. My guest today is Zach Pogrob. Zach's a creator. He's a writer, the man behind the animated videos on the app Behavior Hack Instagram and TikTok accounts, and the leader of the obsession movement on Twitter. Zach and I talk about finding and sustaining your obsession, his inspirations, cultivating a long-term mindset, building a brand as big as Disney, and more. Please enjoy. How do you find the thing to obsess over? And maybe importantly, do you find it or does it find you?
I think it always finds you. I don't think you can sit down and just figure it out. I think it comes through like violently and relentlessly creating. Like, have you read Paul's blogs?
Yep.
Probably right. Yeah. And, he has this one great one. I think it's like how to find what you love. And he has this great analogy where it's, if you just create consistently and all the time, you'll find what you love. Like forgot the way he said it, but like a pebble going downstream, and like what you're creating is like that stream. I think that's the best way to say it. Yeah, it's kind of meta. Like my obsession is obsession, or you get asked that sometimes. I get joked that sometimes, but originally before that, I had a different motto. I used to say, take the hard route, and I have mugs. I was like, that was my bio. I used to say it all the time. It wasn't as catchy though, right? Wasn't as specific. And so there's that. And I just, I posted, if you go on my Instagram, I posted like 1,800 posts over a few years. That's more than, I think that's an average of more than one a day. And I found the idea of obsession just through putting out so much and seeing this one idea that really resonated. So that's what I think it is. And I think people who don't have it, usually they haven't created enough.
What is the creative process or idea engine for you that kind of moves that pebble downstream?
Now I'm very much the opposite of like the system guys and like the template guys on, especially on Twitter. I'm a believer that your best ideas just come to you. Like you tweet a lot, you have great tweets. I bet you the best ones, they just come to you, you tweet it and it's it. And it's just right. It's quick. And I think there's like a deeper meaning to that. I think like I talk to friends who will like schedule out content, et cetera. But I'm like, no, when you have an idea, share it right away, because there's something about the delay when you share an idea, which changes everything about it, changes how people respond to it. It changes how you reply. And so my system now is very much just like pay attention to these small nuggets of ideas, these small pieces, literally sometimes just one word or a few words, and write those down. And then just throughout your day, as you're living like a life and I say living a creative life, like working out, going on walks, sitting in the sauna, meeting people. So noticing these little fragments of ideas and then combining that with data, with what works, with what you've done in the past, and expanding on it. But it starts with noticing these fragments, these little things that come to you that other people don't have. I think that's all that matters. I think if you really want to be a creator that people care about, that is what matters. It is not something that there's a playbook for. It's not something there's a system for or template for.
Although there might not be a system, you alluded to the idea of using data. What is the right mix for you in terms of leaning into your intuition and the taste you've developed versus looking at the data retroactively and saying, well, this is what people are responding to?
Yeah. So I think it's one of those things that only obsessed people like will understand easily. It's like having this running train in your head, like this wheel that's constantly analyzing what's working and what's not, right? And some people have that, some people don't. And there's that part of it, which is just happening all the time subconsciously. And then there's the other part, which is like, okay, for my videos I do, the animated reels, there's very much, if you actually sat down and look at them, there's like a template of how I write the scripts, right? So it's like, okay, I know this template that works. How do I take these unique ideas, right, that I'm discovering and plug them into a template?
You've gone through a few iterations of your content and your Instagram account over time. And you can identify like these turning points or these step function changes in terms of what the content looks like and the scripting and such. Is that mostly a matter of a need to experiment and see if there's something else out there that's going to resonate more? Or do you just kind of have this epiphany and you're like, oh no, this is the direction we need to go, and I feel it, I see it, and got to put this out there?
Yeah, it's always changed, like, the style of content. I mean, if you scroll down my page when I started, I was just doing, like, literally it was so pointless. It was so, like, basic. It wasn't even my quotes. I would just put quotes of other people. Um, and so, yeah, I do always feel a need to, like, be changing it over time mentally. I try to do little experiments all the time, on what works and what doesn't. Um, I mean, ultimately, though, like, especially right now, I feel like it's just sometimes things are just so obvious. Like right now, I'm in a very rare situation where I have like this algorithm, like by the balls, basically. I don't really like the way I said that, but it's true though. Like if I just post 5 videos a week and make sure I put all my effort into them, we're going to gain hundreds of thousands of followers a month. It's crazy. And so like right now, things are working. I think Mr. Beast said this in an interview with Lex Friedman, where he says like, you want to experiment on the way up. You don't want to experiment on the way down because then you're sinking. It's actually a really important idea. You want to experiment when you're going up. And so like it's hard because right now I'm in this state where what I just said, we have this algorithm, like I know what I have to do to grow, but you still have to be putting in experiments in there because it might not last forever, and it won't last forever. The platform itself won't last forever.
What are other mistakes creators make? You had mentioned that maybe on the way down, you're trying to experiment to save your brand or your account. What are some of the other common mistakes you see creators make?
Just doing the same thing forever and it not working. Like there's so many creators who've been posting for years and it's great, but they just haven't changed their content and they put out so much good stuff, but not enough people see it just because they're not willing to work on the thing that, like I said, this depends on your goals. This depends on what you want to do. But if you want to build a big audience, growing matters just as much as the actual work that you're doing and sharing. And so I think a lot of people just get trapped into the consistency trap of just, I'm going to do this every day. And that is a huge part of it. But the other part of it is getting better every day. And that's the piece that most people don't do. But I've been obsessed with that since I started, is trying to figure out learning something. Like you're an obsessive learner, I could tell. And like, some people just are and some aren't. But I think you kind of have to be obsessed to grow on social media, like, completely obsessed if you want to do something real.
Who are the other creators you mentioned, Mr. Beast, that you look to for inspiration and guidance, whether you know them directly or not, but you feel like they're at the top of their craft?
Yeah, I mean, Twitter's probably where I spend most of the time, honestly. Like, if you had to make me choose between my Instagram and my Twitter, it would be a super hard choice. I honestly might choose the Twitter. I'm not even joking. Um, Quality of followers, the simplicity of it, the type of content I can make. I could literally write anything on Twitter. I have no strategy on Twitter. Like, literally, obviously I post my videos, and obviously I obsess over the writing. But I've been pretty proud of that. Like, I literally just tweet what I want, and it's grown. It's growing a lot now because of the videos. But, my writing still does well. That's the best part about the videos is, really what they are in my brain, at least a big part of it is they get people into my writing. And so like my favorite thing is when someone finds me through the videos, but then they share like my written posts. That's great. That means this is working because the videos are a lot more normal. Um, they're a lot more basic because I'm going on a different rant. I'm going to come back to your question,
Yeah, you're good.
but the videos, the way I look at them is these are for people who have never seen me before. Because of the nature of the content, especially on really every platform now, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok are all for you platforms, right? All of them. And so the way I look at the video content is this is for someone who's never seen me before. And so if I made all of them like obsession, like, set a goal and die for it, like it wouldn't work. It would be too much. These videos wouldn't go far. And so, most of our best videos are pretty general. It's like, general advice. It's great advice. It's unique advice. But then you bring them in and go deeper, and then they'll share stuff like, I think I made one of my best posts ever I wrote the other day, and it was said in it like, get famous, then fake your own death. It's like amazing that I can like write that and people like it. To answer your question, though, the people I like are the ones who are not following a playbook. They're doing things differently. YouTube, my favorite is Ryan Trahan. Have you seen him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like his Penny series that he did is like, I don't know if you saw that. It's like one of the best pieces of content ever.
Yeah.
And he just like invented a new format, invented a new style. I think that's incredible. On Twitter, There's a few. I really like Billy Oppenheimer. You've probably seen him, right?
Love his stuff. I
I
just
got to meet
emailed
him.
him the other day. I've been trying to get him on the podcast. But
Yeah, I
I
met
said that
him.
he's maybe the only person that I click read more for.
Yeah, I saw that, and then he's just amazing. Like I met him the other day. Actually, he was in here, um, and he's a great dude. Very very humble dude. Um, and he's worked under some amazing people. He's worked under Ryan Holiday, Robert Greene. That dude's gonna go on to do epic stuff.
Hmm.
Um, it's tough for me on Instagram. No one's coming to mind like quickly. Um, like I said, just people who are doing it differently. There are some animation accounts like on Instagram. I'm really working on getting like really am obsessed with like making a good cartoon like style show. And there are some on Instagram. There's one it's called Dinosaur Couch on Instagram, and these guys just the amount of attention they get on these short stories is just incredible. That really inspires me. Yeah, those are a few.
I think it's always helpful to look at folks outside of your immediate domain for inspiration as well. Who are the other obsessed that you're looking to, either past or present?
The Founders podcast is really good. It's basically a podcast about obsessed creators, right? And he's pretty obsessed, David Senra. So like that podcast has been good. It's amazing because I was thinking about it the other day, how I put up a picture of like the biographies, business biographies, and tagged David Senra. I'm like, this is the Founders section now. And someone,
Yeah,
Patrick O'Shaughnessy,
I
commented,
saw that.
how many people are going to hear you saw this, yeah. How many people are going to hear these stories now and hear about these people because of David Senra? Literally because of the medium of the podcast. So this is like, I'm sorry, I'm not answering your question, but
No, you're good. There's no
it's,
agenda here. Wherever you want to
no, I
go.
know. I will come back to it though in a second. So I've been listening to his podcast, like James Dyson. He did one on young Bill Gates. Like these are pure obsessed individuals. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like I love those stories. Like I have this picture I post a lot of like the obsessed. I think it's like Steve Jobs, Walt Disney, Arnold, these guys. Like I just try to think about what these guys would do in my situation, especially Disney. I'm reading his biography right now, the big one, the Neil Gabler one. He's like the number one role model for how I want to operate and the things I want to do as of right now.
What are the biggest inspirations or lessons you've taken from Disney, either the person or the business?
Yeah, I mean, as a person, and I'm like halfway through this biography, so I don't know everything, but he was pure obsession from day one. He just once he discovered animation, he just like lived in this little shack outside his parents' house and just like did it all day and all night. And his parents thought he was crazy. Even before that, he was doing like just regular drawing. He was doing like performing, and he did mail delivery, and he was just obsessed in everything. It was just pure. People talk about obsession as nature versus nurture. If you talk about nature, he was pure obsessive from day one. And then obviously from the business side, the way he just you talk about world building, right? And like the way he just built this entire thing around this one word, Disney, and combined, the art and the business side is just, almost no one has done it like him ever. And so for me, I try to think about like my plan is how do I build a world around obsession, this one word. That's not the brand, probably is not going to be the brand name, but it's the same idea. It's like Disney was built around, magic and like creating magic for everybody, right? Adults and kids. And my mission for the next several decades is going to be how do I do the same thing? How do I take this core value, this core principle, this core idea and put it into all these different packages? Because, Disney put it into 1,000 different packages, from like the big, like, chicken legs at the parks to, the movies. And so it's, that part really inspires me. Also, how he worked with his animators. Like a lot of people might not know, but even before Mickey Mouse, Disney didn't do any of the animating himself. He had animators and he had teams, and that was actually how he lost the character before Mickey. Is um, this company thought, oh, we don't need Disney, we don't need Walt, we can
Hmm.
just take his animators. So they did that. They took his animators and they took his character he had before Mickey Mouse. But that's not why it works. It works because of Walt Disney. It works like he has this great quote. I tweeted it the other day. It's my job was to like gather pollen and spread it all around my animators. And so
Mm.
it's like just these little directions, these little nudges to direct the work. I mean, that's what I'm doing with my team, with my animations, in, not the same way, but in a small way.
I'm sure you've seen the big kind of business map that a lot of people refer to that Disney created. If you look 10, 20 years down the line, what does that map look like for Zach and the Obsessed?
It's one of those things I don't really want to share because, and I'm learning this lately, is I just have I want to share it, but I don't. Like, I talk about it sometimes, but I have it in my head. The reality is what I have in my head isn't what's going to exist. It's going to be different. Um, but it's going to be a combination of physical brands, physical products, digital media brands, digital products, going to be in-person places. I really do want to build this. Everyone I talk to about this madhouse idea, like this, more brutal, obsessed-based Soho house with, a sick gym, sauna, cold tub, have you ever been to a Soho house?
Hmm.
They're kind of lame. Like, maybe that's your vibe, but
Yeah.
they're kind
No,
of
I
lame.
agree.
It's like, dude, you order like these little appetizers, fancy drinks. It's like nice. It's like a restaurant for like casual business meetings. I don't know. It's like something else should exist. And everyone I tell that idea to loves it. So it's going to be some version of that. I think the closest version to Disney right now is actually Christian Guzman. Do you know who that is? YouTuber.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
No.
this dude is like he's not undercover. He has like 1 million YouTube subscribers, but he's an undercover killer. Like, cause like other people like in our Twitter world, I feel like haven't heard of him, but um, he's done it really well. Like he grew up, he was like one of the first big fitness YouTubers. So he has a huge clothing brand called Alpha Elite. He has a huge, massive gym called Alpha Land, which is like one of the biggest gyms in the country. He has a bodybuilding league. He has an energy drink. And so it will be something like that, something where there'll be a lot of arms, and it's just about doing it the right way, um, and doing it over time.
In order for you to get there, the media piece is kind of the engine behind this, the driving force. And we've been seeing a lot of changes in terms of media creation, particularly as a result of generative AI in the last, 12 months or so. How are you thinking about staying on top of the cutting edge of creating media and how you might leverage AI to do that?
Yeah, it's one of those things that I have to keep like, I need to put like a post-it up, like, don't forget about AI, right? Because it's so like blatantly obvious how it's going to change everything, especially for what I'm doing, which is just like digital content, right? I think no one is ready. I think it's going to change everything overnight. And like, I had a pretty overnight, you can call it an overnight success, even though it took like 5 years, 4 years of content. But like, I had like what felt like an overnight, like compounding event, right? Gained like, I gained like over 1 million followers in 6 months. Like, that's crazy. But I think it's going to be
Sir.
even 10x. It's going to be 100x crazier than that though. Because think about it. When there's no limit on scale, it's when someone has the right idea, it's going to be game over instantly. So just like you see people getting more famous faster now on TikTok, it's going to be a weird world, I think. And it's going to be, we have like a 1 to 2, maybe 3 year gap now, maybe 1 to 2 years, I'd say. I don't know anything, but a 1 to 2 years where some creators will take extreme advantage of this, um, and build some of the most special audiences in the world. And I really want to do that. Um, because especially, I mean, look at what I'm doing right now. Like, all of our animations are handmade. I already have like AI animations ready to go. Like, they're just not, they're almost there. They're almost there. Have you seen Runway?
Yeah. Yeah, I've played with it.
It's pretty,
Incredible.
have you tried the Gen 2 one, the video one?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like, some of those are almost ready to go. Like, I could put those on Instagram with a cool voiceover and they'd be good. So I'm aware of it. I'm going to figure out how to use it like more in my content.
What would you say are the biggest challenges you're facing at this stage of brand and business building? Obviously, staying on top of AI could be seen as one for a number of creators. What are the top 1 to 3 things top of mind for you right now to get to that next stage you want to get to?
Yeah, it's definitely monetizing the right way. It's like I have basically infinite options. I could do anything. And it's just about what is right for me, what is right for the audience. Um, because everyone is in my ear about what I should start and what I shouldn't. And there is no right answer. You could do everything. But like I said, you have this world I want to build. And it's about not sacrificing the long term for the short term, but doing things that, like right now, I'm limited by mostly money. Like I'm already spending thousands a month on content. I want to spend more. To do that, we need to make more money. But you want to make money that's always in service of the content and not the other way around, and stuff that's always in service of the audience. So I think I'm still figuring out the right way to do that outside of like the sponsorships, which have been pretty great, like working with some really cool companies in the past and in the future. And that's cool because I'm basically the first creator ever to do sponsorships this way in like these animated reels, that's pretty cool actually. Now that I think of that, but and it's cool when companies recognize the value and the reach of them. But yeah, that's definitely it. It's just like the opportunities and businesses I want to start because there is a lot of options.
Going back 4 or 5 years ago, is that when you started the photo booth business? Was a handful of years ago?
It was about 5 years ago. Content was about 4 years ago.
Okay. Those are very different businesses. One is highly physical, low leverage, in person.
Horrible.
Yeah. Yet I'm sure there were lessons to be had there. What are the biggest things you learned from attempting to build that business that you've incorporated into what you're doing now?
Yeah, I mean, everything I'm doing now only existed because I did that business. And this is one of those situations where it's like the problem with social media is everyone gives advice on their way because they made it, even if their way sucked, right? So I am telling you what worked for me when I tell people about this, but I don't know if I recommend it. It's like I think it's John McAfee, or he might have been quoting someone else, but there's a quote and it's like drugs, alcohol, and hookers worked for me, but I don't really
Yeah.
recommend it. It's like,
Right.
it's such a good quote because it's like, it was very painful for me and it took a long time for me to get out of that business. And, um, what I learned from it, I started it because it was always to help me do the content, full time, but obviously content takes forever to make real money from.
Hmm.
I didn't start making real money from it until really like the end of last year when I really started growing. So, I had like 200,000 followers on Instagram, but still, people might see that as, super valuable, but I wasn't making much money from it. Um, the business was great because it was a weekend business mainly when I had to work in the beginning, when I was working the actual events on the weekend. For anyone who wants to know, by the way, it was basically these nice photo booths at weddings when you go to where you stand in front of a backdrop and take a picture. And my business would have someone go and set up and run it the whole time. It was great because during the week, I just got to obsess over like, reading Paul Graham blogs and making content and figuring that all out. It was also great because obviously I was paid by it and survived. And then three is I learned how to manage people and how to market. Our first event we ever did, I charged like $150, didn't know what I was doing. And the last event, what the business charges now is like over $2,000 for basically the same thing, just very different marketing, very different packaging of the package. Excuse me. And so that was really valuable. Like learning how to do that, learning how to take this thing that realistically most companies charge a few $100 for, charging 2,000 for that. Just figuring that out through like thousands of books that I read, or not thousands, but hundreds of books and things I learned, super valuable.
Even though you had started with or were running this photo booth business, you seem to have always had this vision post soccer of becoming a creator. And that requires this long term mindset that I think is largely missing in today's culture. Is that something you felt like you always had or you had to cultivate? And do you have to continually cultivate that, or do you just feel like it's ingrained in you?
This is a hard one where it's like, since I started making the content, I really never ever considered stopping it. And so, but I don't think I necessarily had that before. I think it comes from failing at most of the major things I was doing. I basically failed in college soccer, was always hurt, was never good enough, never had a good career. Um, I was trying to go to med school after that. I did fine there, but like, had a lot of work ahead of me to actually get there. And just, yeah. And so those kind of pushed me, I think, to, want this extreme success and extreme goals. And, those experiences are hard to teach. I think they have to like happen to you. and you have to create that like hunger that never really goes away. So yeah, I think it's a combination of those experiences, and like the college athlete story is really common. People get hurt as an athlete because you take all that energy and all those like decades of effort, and you have to put it somewhere else.
In that same vein, part of me as I'm reading your tweets about obsession reads it as a belief in the power of obsession, like no doubt about it. But I think there's also a part of me that reads it as you hoping it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy, like you manifest it by talking about it all the time. Uh, which is it more often?
Like my answer, my from my conscious brain is like more the first, but now that you say that, who knows? It could be like an unconscious effort to do it the second. Um, I do like, I actually don't consciously think about it anymore. Like it probably looks like I'm talking about it every day, but it's actually not conscious. It just happens. And obviously now like I get tagged and stuff a lot and I retweet it, which is really cool. That's like a sign like a movement's really working, I think. Um, and that's part of the reason, like we talked about community stuff. That's part of the reason, like I like that things are so public, like the community happens everywhere. Like I'm getting tagged in obsession stuff every day. And so I think it's more the first, but who knows? Like I think there's definitely an unconscious piece to it that is like fueling myself. But no, I mean, when I look back on my life, it's always been this underlying obsession in the things I really loved. Um, and trying to notice that and harness that in the right way. Everything I've done has been, every big thing I did to make progress in life was pure obsession.
From the outside, looking at what you've built, there's three key elements that stand out to me. One is just first the consistency and quality of your content from stylistically, it tends to be the same. The types of things you're talking about are within the same arena. Two is the use of obsession, as we just touched on. Having a term or a label you can hang your hat on that kind of encapsulates everything you're trying to do, like boiled down. And three, which is a more recent development, is the use of the black flag on Twitter to indicate like I'm a part of this community, I'm a part of this cult. What are the other maybe overlooked aspects of building a community, a brand, a cult? And I mean that in the most positive sense possible.
Yeah, I went into this. I did a podcast recently with Danny, and he titled it like "How to Build a Cult." And I went back to the same studio, and the guy's like, "Hey, it's the cult guy." It's so funny. Um, but no, the underlooked aspect is I think the way it really grows often doesn't come from you. It has to come from them. So like the title kind of for the community is The Obsessed. Like that's like kind of, and I didn't come up with that. People just started saying it. Like, oh, can you do this for the obsessed? Make a Discord for the obsessed, whatever. And I started to use that, and I think it like is perfect. And so that's an example. That's you kind of have to like they have to create it with you. Like you create the source, but then they're gonna give you the other things. Um, the idea for the black flag, which is probably one of the best ideas I've had with it, just came to me on like a run that like it needed it. And I actually knew it was going to be the black flag from the beginning. Like that was set in my brain, but you know what? Why not put up a poll and like let the community build it with you? Maybe they would have
Right.
had a better idea. The flag is perfect because it's like, I think Danny Miranda said it's like the opposite of surrender, a black flag, which is like perfect. That is literally what obsession is. And it's like, it's a flag. A flag is like, that's your nationality. That's who you are. That's what you live by. Um, that is perfect. And I will literally keep building around that forever. Like, I don't see myself stopping this stuff. What's cool about it too is like, yeah, there's trademark stuff that I'm working on, but if you really own a word, no one can take that from you. And I think I have a shot. I think if I keep going over like 10 years, this looks really different. It's actually crazy to think about. And so, yeah, the underlooked stuff I'd say is just like, you have to put the source out there. You have to be testing stuff constantly, always sharing different, like I have a bunch of hats with random terms just to like see how they feel on me, things I've thrown out there. like capitalize different things, like different frameworks or different tools, different things you make. Just give things names and see how they resonate, because some won't resonate at all and some will resonate a lot. Um, yeah, and the bio test is a good one. If you can get someone, if you can notice what people are putting in their bio, because I think the reason I started doing this is because the community stuff and really dialing in on obsession, I don't think I really, really started it until like a few months ago. But it feels like, and yeah, like Twitter's like a bubble, but even like Instagram, even friends in person, they come to me now in like obsession every time. It's like they want to talk about it. It compounds, and people, in a way most people don't realize. It's actually crazy. Um, so it takes years. So yeah, there's two sides to it. I haven't really started like completely letting it take over everything for the last few months, but I've had it in my bio for like 2 years, and it's been like a
Mm.
subtle thing for 2 years. But I noticed people were putting the word obsessed in their bio. They were saying like obsessed with blank or follow obsession, like, and so that was kind of a sign. So the bio test is a good one.
Even though your brand is all about the idea of obsession, it seems like the way you manage your time, you almost surrender to your mind, to like the background creative processes that are running to your environment, and allow that to contribute to your obsession. How do you know when to surrender, when to slow down versus when to obsess, when to hit go?
It's very hard. It's very hard for someone like me, like, to do that. I still struggle with it a lot, especially living in Manhattan. It's like nonstop. Um, I think you just know the core part of obsession, I think, is like, I am working on this kind of like lifestyle challenge, and a core part is turning off. You have to turn off because you have to let the obsession, like, I'm trying to think of a word that's not like gross, but like you have to think of it like let it like build in your mind, like let it
Yeah, it's got to
bounce around your
permeate
brain
your
with
whole
with
being.
permeate. That's what I was gonna say, and I don't like it, but you have to let it just like fester in your brain and let it build, because that's where the really good ideas come from. When I was really going hard with the videos, which literally that period changed my life. But like I said, like this was like November, December, going really hard with the videos. It was really hard, and I would literally have to go in a sauna every day, sauna or like tub for like 30 minutes, and just I'd have to like sit there until I got ideas to go make them into videos. And that is literally what I did. And most people don't do that. And so that's important. And then there's also like, yeah, it was a period. I've kind of came down a little bit since then. Because it was a lot. And now kind of ready to ramp back up again. Um, so yeah, you have to go in and out, I think. I think you go through these like few month-long periods of like dark mode, the darkness, the dark place. That's something I kind of call it sometimes. Um, you have to. Those few months are important. That's like a key part of obsession.
I've noticed a cyclical nature to it, both in the micro in terms of day to day or weekly, but then also the macro and like the month or year scale. What would you say are the drawbacks to obsession, and is there a way to do it that's healthy, or are those just mutually exclusive? Like uh those are contrary ideas.
Yeah, it's really hard because I'm not, I've struggled so much with it just in terms of like overall health and like relationships, because those are the things that get hurt when you really are obsessing. But I think if you do it right, it comes from just these, you go to extremes. And so, when you're in your work, you're fully obsessed there. And then when you're with family, when you're working on your health, you're fully obsessed there. You're in the moment, you're off from the other stuff. Um, off at least in your, this is a weird one where you can be off in your attention, but in my opinion, the obsession never turns off. It's it's always in your brain. And so there's no like, I don't think I have a good answer for this yet. Maybe I will in a few years, but that's what obsession is. It's a world in your head that never turns off. And so you have to figure out how to function like a normal human, in social environments, which I'm still figuring out, I guess. I'm only 26, so I still got to figure that out.
Right.
I have figured it out mostly, but I'm sure you've struggled with that. Anyone who's like a curious person who's just obsessed with things has struggled with that. And so yeah, it's about giving someone your energy and attention when you're with them, um, regardless of that happening.
What are the other ideas or interests or problems that you would be interested in pursuing, but have sacrificed at the expense of pursuing meta obsession? Are there other areas of your life that you're like, man, if I had, 5, 10 lives, these are the things I would go spend my time on, my attention on? Or is it just like your entire being is directed toward this thing and you don't even think about the trade-offs?
It's more the second. Like, sometimes I think sometimes if I could play pro soccer, I would just drop everything and go do that, just, like, change my last name, but I don't think I'd actually do that. Um, yeah, like, some people ask me to, like, sign up for these things, like races or things like that, but I don't. I think there are things people do when they're searching for something, and I feel like I don't need those things, you know what I mean? Um, and so, no, like, I don't think about that really. Like, I like that I have this I still have a lot to figure out though and discover, you know? So I feel like I have so much I have to figure out with this one thing. I don't really think about like the other lives that I could be living as much. I wouldn't want to. Like, I think I don't get, and this is something I've learned to just be more open with and transparent with, is just not doing things I don't want to do, not pleasing other people, not and saying things I believe. Because life is, I think, very short. And in the past, I have done things to sacrifice my most obsessed self. And it's always led to me feeling discontent towards, myself mainly and other people. Um, that has really changed my life. And so, yeah, I don't really think about other lives anymore.
Is there a guiding question or problem or objective? Um, I think you're going to end up reiterating some of what you've said already, but like, what is that North Star for you that you see your work on obsession uh, being a means to an end for, or in contribution of? So obviously, there's never a final goal that you reach that you're satisfied with or feel like it's a fleeting sense of achievement. You're always on to the next
Sure.
thing, but there's a directionality to it. There's this problem that like is expansive and uh and you want to move your energy towards, but you never actually solve it. What would you say that thing is for you?
I think it's mostly just a game with myself, like to see if I can make all these things real. Um, like that's the selfish motivation. And then the external is just, um, the big thing is that it needs to be bigger than me. And so like right now I'm kind of doing that in that I'm serving this idea called obsession, right? Bigger than me. Everyone can attach themselves to it. Everyone can identify with it. Um, and that's part of why it's working so well. And that's why people like me as a creator, but it needs to be bigger than that, as there needs to be this brand, which I don't have the name for this yet. It is so important that it can't be rushed. Um, I guess it could be changed over time. And, this is Disney, this is Apple, this is, Ford, this is like the most important thing ever. Um, the end goal is there is this overarching thing that encapsulates obsession perfectly and is affected by everything I create. Um, because like I said, it does have to be bigger than me. It does have to be bigger than one person. Though often one person kind of leads people there. Um, a lot of great brands right now, especially like social media first brands, they are, driven by one, really charismatic and like relentless founder. Um, so many. And that is the big picture for me. And it will take a long time.
If you don't get there, what's the number one reason you fail or things go wrong?
I think it would be too much listening to other people and too much consuming, because I like struggle with that a ton. I'm working on it. But when I actually know what I want to make and do, I turn all that off and just focus and do it. But when I like right now, I'm kind of in a period of wondering and deciding between paths, and I'm listening to a lot of people, and it's good. Some people are great, but it's I think that would be the kill. Like that would be what prevents me. It's just too much stimulus, too much information instead of just listening to myself. Um, yeah. And that's, I think, honestly, the risk for 99% of people, too much consuming and not creating their own stuff, not creating their own life. Like I'm at least still creating something. I think it's not that much in the grand scheme of things. Like, yeah, over years I have this, body of work, but I think this body of work is 1% of what I could be doing and should be creating.
There's one question I ask every guest, which is, what's one question you'd leave me and listeners with, either to think about or act on?
When was the last time you were working on something and thought about nothing else except the work? So like you didn't, those moments of obsession are really hard to notice. And there are hacks, like I've talked about these before, like you can see when you have to pee, but you don't even get up to go to the bathroom, when you forget to eat, when you forget to sleep. But it's more than that. And you could look at your Chrome history, you can look at where you're paying your attention to, but when is the last time you were doing something and you were so caught up in just the joy of the pure output and creation? Because there's not as many, a lot of people go through those and just don't even notice it because they're so great. That's the trick, is you don't notice how great it is. You're in the moment. You could call it flow state, whatever. But figuring out those moments and those small things that's the whole game. That is the whole game. And it's something I struggle with. It's something a lot of people struggle with. And then using that to create more and do more of that is the ultimate challenge, I think, the ultimate challenge of obsession. And some people find it when they're really young and easily, and some people find it when they're really old and it takes a lot of effort.
Zach, this was excellent. We'll definitely be back on. We'll find some opportunity in the future where you've hit another milestone within the obsession brand building, but really appreciate your time.
Definitely appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.